Hey lovelies, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl here, Joanne. Today I'm going to be showing you how to cut this off-shoulder Igbo blouse. So if you're interested in something like this, watch this video to the end. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like and share this video. Let's get to the cutting table. For this tutorial, I'm going to be using this George material you're seeing here, and this is a doll face I'll be using to line the George material. Okay, and also this is the inner lining I'm going to be using. The doll face is about 1.5 inch and the inner lining is also about 1.5 inch. So let's go to the cutting table. I've already laid my pattern and I'm going to begin with the measurements. So this is the back panel I'm cutting first, and this is what I'm measuring now is a zipper allowance, which is 1.5 inches. So for your zipper allowance, you can go as far as 2 inches. It depends on what you want. I'm going to be connecting this point into a straight line.
Our hearts beat to the city streets. We began to feel the fire.
Now I'm going to take the vertical measurements, which is the bust line, the waistline, and the length of the blouse. Because we are cutting an off-shoulder blouse, I'm going to be subtracting 4 inches. That will be for the shoulder measurement. We don't actually need that for this tutorial, okay, because it is an off-shoulder blouse. So on this part here, I am going to be subtracting 4 inches to get my bust line. From that 4 inches that I subtracted, I'm going to begin my measurements, which is the bust line, the waistline, 16 inches, and the length of this blouse is 26 inches. I hope you understand what I mean. So if you want yours to be very open, you can go as far as subtracting 5 inches or 6 inches, as the case may be. So next thing I'll do now will be to label each of these lines. So I'm beginning with the zipper line. I'm going to label this as the zipper line or the zipper allowance. Then on the bust line, I'll label this as the bust line. And on the waistline, I'll label this as the waistline. And of course, the length, I'll label this as the hip line or the length. Okay. So next thing I'll do now will be to take my bust measurement. So my bust measurement is 37. That is the bust I'm working with. It's 37 inches divided by 4. Then whatever I have, I'm going to be imputing that and add 2 inches sewing allowance to it. Then on the waist, I'm going to be taking the waist measurement divided by 4, and I'm going to be imputing that, okay? So next thing will be to add 1 inch for that. Okay, for this blouse, I'm going to be adding that to it. So I added 1 inch for that, and from there, I'm going to be adding extra 2 inches seam allowance. That will be for the sewing. Then on the hip or the length, blouse length, I am going to be taking the hip line, hip measurement, which is 42 inches. Then whatever I have, I'm going to impute it and add extra 2 inches seam allowance to it. Next thing I'll be doing will be to connect each of these lines, excluding the dart allowance I kept on the waistline. I hope you understand. So I'm going to be connecting from the allowance on the bust line to the waistline and to the hip line.
Our hearts beat to the city streets. We began to feel the fire. We rise like tall buildings as the chemicals, they take us higher. The night's young, it has just begun as she puts her hand in mine.
So having done this, if you notice on the waist side, you find out that it is looking a bit shapeless. That is because I've taken in the dart, and by the time I sew in the dart, the shape will come up. But for the purpose of clarification, I'm going to use my ruler and a pencil to mark a broken line to show you how the shape will come out. For those of you who will be a bit confused about this, so this is to clarify you, to show you the actual shape, how it's going to be after taking in the darts. So this is how it is after I take in the dart. This is how it will be, okay? So next thing I'll do now would be to to determine the neck width. And to determine the neck width for this, I am going to be taking around shoulder measurements. So whatever I have, I'm going to be subtracting 16 inches from the measurement. That 16 inches is for the both sleeve. Okay, when you're cutting your sleeve, that is what you use in cutting your sleeve, the 16 inches. So I'm taking away that 16 inches. Then whatever I have after taking away the 16 inches, I'm going to be dividing that into 4. And what I had here was 5.075, and I imputed that. So going over to the neck depth, I subtracted 4 inches, all right, to get the neck depth, which is 7 inches. So for this neck depth, there's no rule attached to it. You can do yours 8 inches, 9 inches, 10 inches. It depends on how wide or how open you want your off shoulder to be. So I'm now going ahead to connect this neckline, okay, from the neck width to meet to the point of 7 inches that I made for my neck depth. So next thing I'll do now would be to come over to the bust line and go up by 2 inches. That will serve as my chest line. Then I'll use a ruler to make a straight line around that area. So now I'm going to be determining the armhole. So coming to the neck width, I'm going to mark a slanty line to meet to the chest line, like so. So on this armhole, I'm going to now slightly make a curve around that area, as you can see. So on the bust line, I'm going to be extending the allowance to meet to the chest line, like so. So next thing is that I'm going to be imputing my dart measurement. Then on the bust line, I'm going to mark my dart measurement, which is the difference from one bust span to the other. Mine is 8 inches. I'm going to be taking half of 8 inches, which is 4 inches, and I added extra half inch for allowance, okay, because I'm not cutting this dart out, so I added the half inch allowance. All right, so I'm marking a straight line to meet to the bust line. Then on the bust line, I'm going to come up by 1 inch. All right, this is the back part panel we are cutting. So for the back, it's either you go up by 1 inch or 2 inches is fine. Okay, so I went up by 1 inch. Okay, I'm trying to make that line straight enough. Then on the waistline, I am going to take in the dart, which is half inch on both sides. Remember, while I was marking, okay, for the waist, I added 1 inch for that. So I am bringing that 1 inch that I added to this part. This will now be the dart allowance, okay. Then on the hip line or the blouse length, I'm going to come up by 2 inches. Then I'm going to be connecting the dart from the waist to meet to the bust line, and from the bust line to meet to the 2 inches point that I made around the hip line, like so. So now, as you can see, the back panel is partially ready. I'm going to be cutting it and extend the neckline around the zipper area, okay. So there's going to be an alteration to this back panel, so but that will be on when I'm cutting on the fabric. I'm going to be showing you when we get to that stage. So I'm going to be cutting this now. All right,
Our hearts beat to the city streets. We began to feel the
so this is how it is. I'm going to put this away and start cutting the front bodice. This is a bust line. I've already labeled these lines. I'm going to explain to you and it's unfold. So this is the bust line, the under bust line, and the waistline, and of course the blouse length. So now I'm going to be taking in the dart. So for that, I'm going to be taking in 4 inches plus half inch seam allowance, which is going to be 4.5 inches, okay. 4 inches for the dart and half inch seam allowance, 4.5 inches. So I'm going to do this and connect this line into a straight line.
Our hearts beat to the city streets. we began to feel the fire.
Next thing I'll do would be to take in the darts on the bust line. I'm going to be taking in the darts. Okay, going over to the side, I'm going to be taking in the dart of 2 inches. If your bust is bigger, you can do 2.5 inches. So I'm taking in the dart of 2 inches for this blouse, and I'm going to come over to the center and taking the dart of 1 inch. Next thing I'll do now will be to take this line, connect it all the way to meet to this part here, okay, to meet to the hemline. So having done that, I am now going to take from the under bust dart, okay, I'm going to curve it using my curve rule to meet to the bust point line. So I'm going to be repeating the same thing on this side, curve it to meet to the bust point line, like so. Having done this, if you notice, the dart did not really get to the curve I made, did not really get to the bust point line, okay, it didn't really get to the bust point area. This is because I want to eliminate any form of pointiness around the bust area, okay, so you will want to do this also. So from on this part, on this upper chest, I'm now going to take in the dart on the center, which is half inch. I'm going to come in by half inch, okay. This is a dart I'm taking for the center. Note, it is half inch. So I'm going to use my straight rule now to connect it to me to my bust line. Next, I'm going to, on the side, I am going to take in the dart for the side. But to take in the dart, remember the neck width I used on the back, exactly the method I used. I'm going to repeat it on this part, okay? So I'm going to take in the neck width, which is 5.075. I'm imputing that here, so that will help me in taking in my dart. So whatever I have, I imputed that, and I'm going to mark it using a straight rule to connect it to my bust line. So whatever you have for yours, for your neck width, use it to determine your dart intake for the side bustier. So now I'm going to connect from this point, from the bust point line to meet to that point I marked on the chest line. Okay, so now next thing I'm going to do will be to take my entire body measurement, okay, the bust line, the under bust line. When taking the measurement, I'm going to be replacing this dart on the under bust and the waistline, and of course the hip line. So starting with the under bust measurement, I'm going to be taking the around under bust measurement, which is 33 inches. So 33 inches divided by 4, whatever I had 9.025. I imputed that, and I'm going to be replacing this dart on the under bust, which is 3 inches, and I'm imputing 3 inches for the dart. Now I'm going to be adding extra 2 inches seam allowance. That will be for my sewing, okay. So please note that you have to replace every dart you took out, okay. Then on the bust line, I'm not really going to take that measurement because I'm going to be connecting this line from the under bust all the way to the upper chest line. So on the upper chest line, I am going to be replacing this dart, as you can see. So this dart I'm having here is 2 inches. I'm going to replace 2 inches on this part. As you can see, I'm replacing all the darts that I took out, okay. If not, I'll run short of fabric. You would want to replace all the dart intake you did, okay. So next thing I'm going to do is to determine the armhole, and I'm going up by 4 inches. That is subtracting 4 inches from the measurement to determine my armhole. So for the armhole for the front, I took 7 inches, and I'm going to be connecting it from this point to meet to the armhole. Like I said, for the bust line, I'm not going to be taking that measurement for the bust line, okay, because after I measured the dart, it was the same thing. But if your bust is bigger, after your dart intake on the under bust, please do measure your bust. I hope you understand what I mean. So for me it wasn't necessary for me to take my bust measurement, because after taking in the dart on the under bust, it was the same thing as the bust measurement. That was why I connected it from the under bust all the way to me to my armhole. Then on the hip line, which is the hemline, I'm going to take the hip measurement divided by 4, and I imputed that. And next thing I'll do would be to take in my sewing allowance, which is 2 inches. So for the hip line, I'm not going to be doing dart replacements, okay? So I'm not going to be replacing any darts here. Then going over to the waistline, I'm going to take the waist measurement. Then whatever I have, I'm going to be dividing that measurement by 4, then impute it, okay? Then I'm going to be replacing the darts around this waist area, okay? I'm going to replace that dart, which is 2.5 inches. I'm replacing it. I'm going over now to add 2 inches extra seam allowance. That'll be for my sewing. So I'm going to connect it to my waistline, from the waistline to the under bust line, as you can see. Then on the hip line, the length of the blouse, I am now going to extend this line. This is a front blouse, okay? So this has to be a bit free on the hip area. That's for the front blouse. So I'm not going to be connecting it exactly from the waistline to the first measurement I had earlier marked, which is the hip measurement. So I'm extending that measurement. I did not do any dart intake for the length, okay? So this is what I'm doing here, extending the measurement, because this is not meant to be tight around the hip area. That's for the blouse length. It's not meant to be tight. I hope you understand. So next thing now, I am now going to go over to cut this out, starting from the bustier side, the center. I'm going to cut the center out, cut the side out, and also cut the armhole out. Okay, so this is how it is. As you can see, I am going to now cut the interfacing for you guys to see. So I'm not going to bring the back panel, because I said that I was going to make an alteration to the back panel. So this is it, all right? So I'm going to be making an alteration, and it will be on this side. So as you can see, that if you notice, this blouse is straight on the hem side, and it's not supposed to be so. So on this side, I am going to come up by 1.5 inch. Okay, I'm going to come up by 1.5 inch. This will help give the blouse a slight curve around the hip area. I hope you understand.
Our hearts beat to the city streets. We began to feel the fire. We rise like tall buildings as the chemicals, they take us higher. The night's young, it has just begun, as she puts her hand in mine.
So this is how it is. As you can see, I'll bring the front and do the same thing. All right, so this is the front. I'm going to lay it and do the same thing I did for the back. So on the side, I am going to go up by 1.5 inch. Exactly what I did for the back is what I'm doing for the front. I'm going to make a slight curve, okay?
Our hearts beat to the city streets. We began to feel the fire. We rise like tall buildings as the chemicals, they take us higher. The night's young.
This is what we have. I am now going to go ahead to cut the interfacing and cut the George fabric. So this is the back. I have cut the George fabric, Okay, that what I'll be using for the upper part, which is the George fabric. You know, this doll face will be underneath the George fabric. I hope you understand what I mean. So this is it. This is how it is. I'm going to lay it for you guys to see how it's going to be at the end of the day. All right, so this is it. And I have not cut the inner lining, what I'm going to be using to line this up. I'm going to do that in my next tutorial, guys. So for the sake of time, I had to do this off camera. So this is the second one. You know, this back is cut into two. Okay, it is one, but by the time you add your zipper allowance, I cut this into two. So by the time you add your zipper allowance, it will be one. I hope you understand. So this is the side. I've already cut the interfacing or wording. Okay, this is wording or interfacing that I cut, and I cut the George net, the George fabric. And next thing is the center. All right, so this is the center. This is how it is. I've done the same thing. I've cut what I need to cut. So that is it for now. And this is the sleeve. I had to cut this sleeve off camera for the sake of time. Please pardon me, guys. So this is how the sleeve is. What I did for the sleeve is that on this part, okay, on these top parts, I took out 4 inches, which was the shoulder. This, you know, this is off shoulder sleeve, so I took out 4 inches and I got the length of my sleeve and also marked the armhole. So I'm going to put a tutorial on how to cut an off shoulder sleeve. All right, so this is the design that I trimmed out from the George fabric. Guys, trust me, you want to see how I'm going to place this on the blouse after I'm done sewing the blouse. And guys, I'm going to be creative about this, so you want to see every detail. Trust me, it's going to be very interesting. Okay, so you want to turn on your post notification bell so that when I upload a new video on the sewing aspect of this tutorial, you will get to see and you get to be notified and see. Okay, you got to watch the video and, you know, follow every step that I'm going to be taking. So we've come to the end of this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.